Hello and good evening, Dangerlings, and welcome to this, a special Danger Club interview that we are having here on this Friday night. So thanks very much for joining us. I hope you are having a good night. This is me, of course, your usual host, James Foxy Lockhart. And with me tonight, I have, as ever, the inevitable, the wonderful, the inscrutable Dungeon Master. Hello, Dan.
Hello, everyone. How's it going? You can't answer. It's the ether, but you struggled really hard not to say Dangerous Wednesdays, didn't you?
I did. I was so tempted, but I'm quietly proud of myself that I managed to resist this temptation. And but tonight we have a very, very special guest. Tonight we have Paul Shapiro coming to us all the way from the States, from Beadle and Grimm. Hello, Paul.
Hello. Good evening.
Good evening, and good day to you, sir, from where you are. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's Friday. Looking forward to the weekend ahead, but it's good.
Absolutely. Terrific. Well, glad to hear it. Thank you so much for joining us. And, well, now, this the name Beadle and Grimm might sound familiar to some of our regular viewers because we did look at something that you were doing about a week and a half ago on our Dangerous Wednesdays show, and that is the Beadle and Grimm's Complete Character Chronicles. And you've agreed to come on here and speak a little bit about them. So, in your own words, what is this? What are you putting forward?
So, the Complete Character Chronicles are an idea that came out of as everything that Beadle and Grimm's does, our own game playing experience. So Beadle and Grimm's, the company, is actually named after two characters that were in our original D&D campaign from 20 some years ago, Beadle and Grimm. Oh. And once the company was formed and we were going out, people kept asking questions like, well, who's Beadle? Who's Grimm? What happened? And the two guys that play those characters sort of did their best to try to remember. And the more they tried to answer questions, the more they realized, wouldn't it have been awesome if back when we were actually playing these characters, there had been some way to really sort of, document these epic, adventures and journeys that they went on so that 20 years later, when we have a company and we're doing interviews, that we could actually refer to them. And so that was the impetus for it. But what we wanted to do was not just have a character sheet or a journal. We really wanted this to be something that you could bring to the table and actually be useful. So a key part of it was we wanted to partner with one of the big game companies to actually be able to put the rules in the book. Mm-hmm. So that's why we went to Paizo. We became licensees of Paizo so that we could make not just a character sheet and not just a really cool journal, but we could actually, for example, for the wizard, have all the wizard spells. That's just something that we always thought would be really cool, as opposed to having to either Xerox them or write them all down or bring a whole separate book. So that's really the thing that turned this from just sort of a cool idea into an actual product, was being able to work with Paizo to get all of the rules for wizards and fighters and clerics and rogues and be able to put them for each class right into that book.
Fantastic. Well, I can tell you that from a player perspective of many years, that sounds absolutely invaluable. The number of times I've either been flicking through my phone to try and find spells, or I've written them on a little bit of handkerchief or something like that, to have them all in one book sounds absolutely brilliant. Well, I'm certainly very excited about the prospect of this. Now, I'm going to pass you over to Dan, who, in his own words, said he has a bunch of questions. So gird yourself, Paul, but I can assure you that he's an absolute sweetheart. So
I'm excited about these, James, just to get you a wizard spell list in front of you when we're recording so you can remember all your spells. So much about this to be excited about. No, Paul, I'm excited about the product, but I want to know a bit about Beadle and Grimm's as a company. Like, how do you guys come together and decide you're going to make gaming accessories? How does that happen?
Yeah, well, so it started out, the five of us all met in acting school in New York City 25 years ago. And of the five of us, one of us became really well known as an actor. And then there's also Matthew Lillard, who is part of the group as well. But we try to toss him a bone every now and then.
Yeah.
So we just played, and we've been playing together for years and years. And it was actually a few years ago, we were invited to go up to Wizards of the Coast for the very first Stream of Many Eyes. They were streaming the release of their new Tomb of Horrors. And we were up there for the weekend just to play D&D and meet people. And we had this idea, we'd sort of been batting around this idea of, wouldn't it be cool if there was something like some really beautiful edition of these books that just had all of those cool handouts and things that you would want, so you didn't have to make them all yourself. And on a whim, we just pitched it to Dungeons and Dragons to say, hey, could we make this? And bizarrely, they said yes. So we thought, give it a try. We put it together. The first one was Waterdeep Dragon Heist, which was a huge success. It was a limited edition, 1,000 boxes, and they sold out. And then we just kept going. I mean, the company is really based around this idea of us sitting around saying, what would be a really cool thing to make our game more fun? And we come up with those ideas, and then we try to find, somebody who's willing to agree with us that it seems cool. And then we make them. So we did the box sets. We've done different tiers and versions. We're doing these Character Chronicles now. There are dice sets that go with the Character Chronicles that are going to be sold as well. So it's all just different things that we think are really cool that are going to be fun. And then we try to make them.
Yeah, terrific.
That's fun. I like it. That's very similar to, Danger Club started as 6 actors looking for something to do after we'd finished rehearsals, and
right.
Now it is this. It's great how these things kind of grow. I'm sort of interested in this particular project and it being Pathfinder, like, because obviously you've done loads of D&D stuff up until now. But so why Pathfinder? Why now to sort of try out a new game system with this product?
A big reason is we've been, in trying to think of like, well, how do we make this a real company? How do we, branch out from the one thing that we're doing? And one of the things that we thought would be really interesting would be to try to reach out to new game systems, find new players, find new audiences, see what translates, what's similar from D&D to Pathfinder, and then what's different. We've played we obviously played lots and lots of D&D, but we've played a little bit of Pathfinder over the years. We've actually played a lot of, as we all have, lots of different games here and there over the years. But Pathfinder seemed like a great fit. It was a great fit for this. And I will say, Paizo was great. It takes a little bit for a company to say, oh yeah, take our core rule book, slice it up into a lot of little pieces, print it, without us being able to, control it, and then, sell it. So they were great in getting the idea, loving the idea, and then supporting us. So that's a big part of it, right? A big part of it is being able to work with the game companies to make these things happen. So it was how can we reach out to new audiences and work with new companies? So it's been fun so far. We love it.
Oh, fantastic. Is it quite daunting going into what is kind of a fairly new game system for you guys and producing quite something that kind of is quite rules heavy in a system that is famous for being quite rulesy?
Yeah, it was a little daunting. I mean, once we dug in and we realized it's really very similar to D&D 3.5, we're like, we spent a decade crunching 3.5, so we're, familiar with that idea. But we brought in people who had been playing Pathfinder forever. And at the end of the day, the experience of sitting at a table is still similar regardless of the rule set. And for us as actors and sort of storytellers, that's really where we keep coming back to. We keep coming back to the sort of storytelling aspect of it and how this helps. And one of the things that Matt says, and we have a video on our Kickstarter page where Matt's going through and sort of talking about it. One of the things he says that I think is really sort of spot on is, as players, we don't come to hear a story when you come to the table. We come to tell the story, right? We're there to tell the story along with everybody else. And so these Character Chronicles, that's why we call them chronicles and not journals or not, rule books or something. I mean, it really is about telling the story and chronicling it. So as much as there's some rules and some crunching that has to happen, there's also a lot of like, what are the cool things that as a wizard, you're going to want to do and write down. So that's why there's a whole sort of fold out section for your wizard keep. There's a list of, your 10 greatest, enemies and your, all of your companions and things like that. So, we try to have it be as much as it's about the rules, it's also about the story. So the very first page of every character chronicle is a birth certificate that you fill out. And the very last page is a death certificate.
I think that's cracking. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's how do you think, James? Could you fill out 10 enemies for Velda already? Or
Oh, yeah. And the thing is, Velda's one of those characters that I don't think he regards them as enemies, but I bet I'd need a triple page for the people who dislike Velda right now. So yeah, he's definitely finding a lot of trouble.
So, sorry, Paul, go ahead.
Oh, and I was saying, and as a player, that kind of stuff, like the NPCs and the characters that you meet along the way and what your experiences were. I mean, being able to write them down and then refer back to them just makes the whole story so much richer, right? Like whether you as the DM sort of reintroduce a character. I mean, there's nothing sort of more underwhelming than reintroducing a character from, multiple episodes and having the players be like, wait, who is that again? Yeah. But then as a player to be able to go back and say, oh, right, I remember we had this whole experience and we did this thing and now we have children together and, and that kind of stuff.
I have so many game notes that end up getting written on Post-it notes and lost somewhere, or that because there's not sort of anything, or just the back of your character sheet gets full of notes, and you look back on it and it's sort of none of them make sense because it's just little lines here and there.
Yeah.
I'm interested in the how far do the Chronicles go in terms of like the rules content that they have in them? Because obviously there's the second edition Pathfinder is quite a new game. There's new stuff comes out for it all the time. Like, where do you draw the line as to what you put in your character options?
So we drew the line, and we're continually moving the line. But what we decided was we wanted these books to really represent the core rules. That we knew that we weren't going to be able to do everything all the time, but we knew that we could get everything for a wizard or for a fighter from the core rule book, from the advanced player's guide. And so initially we were going to sort of draw the line there, but we've done a little bit of creep beyond that. So there are a couple of spells from some of the adventure paths. There's some feats from, some other source books, but our goal is to completely cover everything that's in the core rule book and the advanced player's guide. And then, where we can, we'll sort of squeeze in a few things here and there. And, one of the things we did learn about Pathfinder is that it's such a flexible system that even though technically you're a fighter, you could be a fighter, cleric, magic user, rogue, with a little sprinkling of, alchemist or whatever. So we know that there are going to be some characters that are just too broad and complicated for this book to really fully support, but we're trying to, for a fighter, it's everything a fighter needs, including all the feats. So instead of a spell book, it's literally like a feat book. And we're going to include some archetypes so that if you do sort of branch out a little bit, there's room for that. And then the character sheet section, because it's a book, instead of it being just like 2 or 3 printed pages, it's the first 15, 20 pages of the book. So there's room for almost anything that you can think of to put in your character. So, but that's what we tried to draw the line at the core rules.
Yeah.
As best we could.
Presumably then the spellcaster books are going to be longer than the fighter books, or so.
Yes. So. There's a little difference. I mean, we thought there was going to be a significant difference. We thought that the wizard book was going to be, twice as big as a fighter book. But the more we started building the fighter book, the more we realized, well, they don't have the spells, but they have all the feats, and we're including all this information on equipment. So we're adding all of the armor, we're adding all the weapons. So as a fighter, you have access to an art for, almost any weapon that you might come across.
Oh, that's nice. So you've got sort of equipment artwork and things in there as well.
One of the things that, you know, how great Paizo was, one of the things that Paizo let us do as we're building these books is they gave us access to their art archive. So building the Wizard book, for example, we were able to go through not just the core rule book and the advanced player's guide, but just all of their paths, all of their adventures, and just pull out every piece of Wizard art and just throw them in the book throughout. So every single page of this book has some piece of art, you know, of a wizard from a core rule book or from an adventure. And it just is fun. I mean, again, like part of this is for a player, you know, normally at the table, it's the DM that has this stack of awesome books with all the pictures and everything that they get to look at. And the players get to sort of peek at them every once in a while. But now, you know, this book gives a player a whole, you know, trove of things to look at while they're at the table to get inspiration and ideas and stuff like that.
We were talking on our Wednesday stream about just because organized players are such a huge thing in Pathfinder. You know, it's going to a gaming store and joining a group, and it'd be a great feeling to be able to just walk up to a table full of strangers and put your chronicle down on your leather-bound book there. It's fantastic.
Definite bragging rights there. And I was just going to chip in and say that I obviously watching the video on your Kickstarter, and I love the depth of character stuff, love all of that. I do think that, as you say, the art really makes it special. Like seeing those beautiful pictures in there on all the pages. I want that book so bad. And it's absolutely looks fantastic. And did Matt say he in the video that you commissioned some in sort of actual bespoke art as well? Yeah.
So the cover of each, so the cover page of the book, so then the cover of those the collector's edition sleeves is a custom piece of art that we commissioned. So there's a fighter one with fighters battling a dragon. Each one of the wizard one, the cleric one, the rogue one, and each one of them has both the sort of iconic class archetype or that character from from Pathfinder universe, but then there are also other ones. So like, for example, the cleric art it's 5 clerics battling a horde of zombies and skeletons, and each one is just a little different. So the idea is to represent all the different kinds of clerics that the book sort of could support, and then the same with the fighter and the rogue. So it like the rogue one is actually a whole group of them sitting around a table in a dark warehouse with a light, and they're sort of making some sort of deal, and one of them is, you know, playing with a dagger, and then there's one standing in the shadows. So they were just fun to make. They were really fun.
Oh, sound terrific.
That's so good. So you've got there's 4 classes with the Kickstarter. Is the plan to do more as well?
So there's 4 with the Kickstarter, and then 2 stretch goals to unlock mystery classes.
Ooh.
So there's the 4. If we reach the first stretch goal, we already reached the first stretch goal. If we reach the second stretch goal, we'll unlock another class. So that'll be the 5th one. I can't say what it is. And then if we get the next stretch goal, we'll unlock the next one. And the idea absolutely is to do all of these. Pathfinder wants us to do them. We want to do them. But because this is such a new product, and because this is such a new audience for us, doing a Kickstarter just made the most sense in terms of getting the word out, getting a sense of, you know, how many people out there that really want these. But also the nice thing about Kickstarters is it's much more of a sort of a conversation and a back and forth than it is if we just sort of posted them to our website and said, hey, buy these. You know, a Kickstarter really, you know, not only are there stretch goals and things like that, but there's comments and back and forth, and, you know, we get to hear from the people who are backing what they like and what they want to see. So we thought it was just a great way to learn about it, for people to learn about us, and see how it goes. But yeah, the goal eventually is to have Chronicles for all the classes.
That's exciting. And presumably after the Kickstarter, the idea is that these become part of the store and are something ongoing.
The standard ones, yes. The Kickstarter has a set of collector's edition ones. And those, I believe, are only going to be available through the Kickstarter. So we're not going to sell the collector's edition
Nice.
ones on the site. Those you'll have to back the Kickstarter for. And then once this is done, depending on how successful it is and the feedback, we may do more Kickstarters to do the sort of, groups of additional classes, or we may just decide to just start producing them. They take a little while to make, but we're getting the hang of it.
Is Kickstarter quite a new way for you guys to fund projects?
This is our first Kickstarter. Yeah, we've never done one before. Part of it is, so part of it was as doing things with Dungeons and Dragons as part of it as a D&D licensee. They don't like doing Kickstarters, and so we didn't really need to as much because we understood the market, and we were focusing on just one thing at the time. So, but we love it. I mean, I think that being able to do Kickstarters is a great way of reaching out to people and letting people, engage more than just, clicking buy.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, was it 17 minutes you hit your first goal?
It was actually 12, but yeah.
12
so we
minutes.
we had our first goal in 12 minutes. We hit our first stretch goal by the end of the day, which was to unlock the, there's a whiteboard. So now in the back of every book, there's a whiteboard that's formatted specifically for that class. So the wizard has your spell list. So that's where you could write your spell list down with dry erase and, magical conditions and hit points and things like that. But the idea is that all of that sort of tallying up stuff that normally you do like on the side of your character sheet, you can now have a whiteboard so that you can do it all on that. And then at the end of the game, just wipe it all down and put it back in the book.
Oh, fantastic. That's
Yeah.
nice. The how's it been this year? Because this has been the weirdest year to be working in any kind of industry, but
Doing anything. Yeah.
presumably you're quite reliant on conventions for a lot of your kind of work.
So we were becoming more and more reliant on conventions. We started just selling everything from our website, and we were actually just starting to get the hang of conventions. So we were really worried. I mean, for us, actually, the thing that we rely on most is people physically getting around a table to play a game, right? So much of what we do is about these physical objects, the handouts and the jewelry and, the things that you need at your table. So we were really worried that with people not coming together and actually playing in person, that would affect it. But thankfully that turned out to not be the case, that people still, even if they're not necessarily all getting together in person, they still all want the stuff, which I can understand. I mean, you're stuck at home. You might as well have as much school stuff as you can while you're waiting for this to go away.
Right.
So it's been good. This has actually been a great year. We did 2 versions of the D&D adventure Icewind Dale, Rime of the Frost Maiden, where we released an edition of the Curse of Strahd adventure, which we were excited about. We released did this Kickstarter, and at the very beginning of the year, we released an adventure for Eberron. So we've had a pretty busy year, but overall it's been great, and the community has just been incredibly supportive of us, which has been hugely rewarding.
Yeah, we've definitely found the same with the community. They'll adapt to anything to sort of support you through it. My DM, I'm playing a Curse of Strahd campaign at the moment. My DM has the Beadle and Grimm's deluxe set for it, but so I have to sit at the end of Roll20 and see him with all of the fun toys and not be actually near it.
Oh, right.
What's the long-term plan with? Obviously, you want to do more sort of Character Chronicles for Pathfinder.
Yeah.
Do you want to do adventures for it? Do you want to do kind of APs like?
So we absolutely do. But one of the things, the reason why we didn't start with an adventure was, one, because we really wanted our introduction to the Pathfinder audience to be a little new. We didn't want to just kind of redo the same thing that we've been doing before. We wanted it to be new, but also we want to figure out, what do you do with a path, right? With a D&D, like our platinum editions or a legendary edition for Curse of Strahd, I mean, we can just put everything in a box and you can buy it. But for a path where you're getting it in installments, you know, we can't put it all in one box at the beginning because then we're going to be giving away what happens at the end. And if we wait until the end and just put it all in a box and give it to you at the end, then most people have already played through part of it. So we're trying to figure out what the right, and we'd love your suggestions, but we'd love to figure out what the right approach is to have that same sort of, you know, impact of this beautiful, you know, box set with all these great handouts and things, while still at the same time still supporting the way Pathfinder, you know, rolls out adventure paths. So we're trying to figure that out.
There are certainly kind of some adventure paths go on to become iconic, and I think kind of would want their kind of collected edition at some point. You know, Rune Lords has had a bunch, and Kingmaker's one day getting its collected edition. So I'm sure there will be there are a few there but it's, I guess, it's identifying the ones that people would really go for, because there's so many,
and then figuring out whether, you know, what made them so iconic is that everybody played them.
Yeah.
At which point, you know, does it become more of a collector's edition of like sort of nostalgia, or is it something that people actually would want to play?
Yeah.
So.
What about the tell me about the dice, because I'm excited by I was looking through the Kickstarter at the dice and just sort of like, oh, you get a fun dice set with some of them, but they're actually kind of specific dice, aren't they?
Yeah, so this was an idea that we had also for a while that we're sort of tying into the Kickstarter because it's so class focused, but eventually we want to do this separately, is their characters class specific dice sets. So one, we have original art for the tin of each one. So we had an artist create essentially sort of an archetype for each of the classes in this beautiful sort of tarot card style, which is, so there's like the cleric and the fighter, and they're beautiful. But then for the dice, because we dig into the rules a lot, we went in and we said, look, if you're a cleric, what's the dice set that you would want? So one, we picked the colors. So all the dice are two colors. So there's a primary color and a secondary color. So for the cleric, it's white and gold. For the rogue, it's sort of, you know, midnight purple and red. And then what we did was we said, look, if you're a rogue, you're going to need a lot of D6s. So let's load up on the D6s in this set. And you're not going to need a lot of D12s because you're not really going to be using a battle axe anytime soon. So you get one of each of the base, but then you get extra. I think you get an extra D20 for multiple attacks and attacking at advantage, and you get D6s for all your backstabs. The cleric gets extra D8s for healing, so you can roll more D8s when you cast healing, and D10s I think for hammers. And so we just did that for every class. Like the wizard gets all these D4s for all the magic missiles that they're going to fire. So, you know, is it going to be every die you'll ever need? No, but is it fun that you have a sort of a class specific set that feels unique to that class? Yeah. So that was the fun part about it. And the tin that they come in is really nice, and that art is beautiful. And so I think it's just going to be a great way to sort of get those dice sets and have them really feel like part of the character.
Yeah, that's really nice. I like, because I'm the same. I'll buy if a new got a new character for a campaign, I'll buy a new dice set for it. But then you end up sort of then having to just add in extra stuff for it because it's not fitting for it.
Yeah. I'd like to think there's some journeys of discovery there as well for people who might buy these chronicles and not having played that class before, being like, why the heck have I got so many D4s? Or like, why the heck have I got so many D6s? Like, you will learn, my son.
Oh, yeah.
You'll learn why you have so many. So I think that's terrific. Really, really good.
Yeah, it was fun. One of the things that took a long time was we spent a long time, the five of us, trying to pick the colors. Because we kept saying, well, so, you know, a rogue is going to be black and red, but then what about the fighter? And we spent a lot of time trying to get the colors right, which was fun. I mean, not that there's any right or wrong color, you know, for any class, but you know, we took it very seriously.
So just a question on the dice. Obviously, they come with some of the editions of the set, the Chronicles. Mm-hmm. Any plans to release them separately as something that people can buy?
Yep, absolutely. So
Fantastic.
you can get them as add-ons in the Kickstarter. So if you get a Chronicle, you can get one or more dice set add-ons. You can get all 4 of them. If we unlock additional classes in the Kickstarter for the Chronicles, we'll unlock additional dice sets for those as well. So there'll be dice sets for those additional mystery classes. And then after the Kickstarter is over, we do plan on rolling out these class sets as something that you can just buy in the store. And I believe we're going to have a full set of them. I'm not sure exactly when they'll actually hit our store.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll have a full set of all of them, including all of the classes.
Wow.
And there's a DM set. There'll be a DM set too.
Oh, nice. That's what I'm excited about.
There's an idea. I mean, perhaps it'd be a generous Christmas gift from a nice DM to his players. I don't know.
The other way around, James. The other way around. It could,
oh, yeah. Of course. Sorry, I forgot the power dynamic for a second there. I apologize.
Anyone sort of thinking about gifts and things? How do you guys decide on your price point for these things? Because obviously, it's with premium items. If it's a sort of an adventure set or something for the DM to use, that's maybe something that the whole table can club together and get, and it's something you're going to use for the whole adventure. But if it's a specific thing just for your character that you're getting. And maybe you're planning on it for a long time, but critical hits happen and characters die at level 3, and then suddenly maybe you need a new Chronicle and things like that. So how do you find a way to make that sort of affordable as something that people buy on their own?
I mean, that was one of the reasons why we did really with these Character Chronicles, we really wanted to build something that was player focused. Up to now, almost everything that we've done has been DM focused. They like these big boxes, and our platinum editions are, they're expensive. They're $500. The silver and gold editions are slightly less, but for these Chronicles, we really wanted to make them something that was affordable to players. So the Chronicles themselves are $35 each. So it's not the same sort of high end premium products that. They're still beautiful. We think they're great, but we tried to price them at a point that as a player you could get one or even 2, or you can get the set of 4. There are the collector edition ones, which are more expensive, but those are numbered and have the sleeves and then if you get the collector's edition party pack with all 4, not only do you get all 4 of them, but you get all the dice and you get this bag of book holding that is a nice shoulder bag that the books go in with the logo on it. So we definitely tried to make these specific and affordable to players.
That's kind of, a set of spell cards for one tradition of Magic on its own is not far off that price.
Yeah, exactly.
Spells.
We wanted it to be something that a player that hopefully if you buy one of these, your character won't die instantly. I think any DM may and part of it is also that's not the kind of game that we've always played. We're not the kind of characters have died. Matt's characters die all the time, but that's his own fault. That's his own fault. He insists on scouting ahead all alone all the time. I don't know why. But other than Matt, characters don't tend to die that often, or if they do, work is, spent trying to get them back. But also you can erase. We try to make the paper really thick so you can erase it if you need to.
Out of interest, any plans to include a sort of disclaimer in the book that if you do buy one of these Chronicles, then it acts as a deterrent to your DM trying to murder your player because you've just invested. That could be nice. Maybe just after the birth certificate. I don't know.
That's a good point. That's a good point. We may just be an insert that we include just to sort of as a reminder. Yeah, absolutely.
Have we got any questions from chat, James? I don't want to run over all the danger links.
We did have a couple of questions, but mostly just lots and lots of love, especially for the artwork for the special edition, the collector's edition. Loving that. Also, your DM has been on the line, your GM, I should say, and he says, if B&G ever feel like doing Character Chronicles for D&D, I buy every single one. Those things are gorgeous. So, Dan, you can expect to see a few more of those with a la carte. Let's have a look here. There were some questions. There was a question about apparently a monthly box to go with the adventure path. Not sure.
Oh, that was right. As one way of doing it would be.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's absolutely, that's one of the ways that we're thinking about addressing that, is to, essentially have a subscription where you subscribe to a set. There's some good things and bad things about that. Like, you couldn't obviously have a big, huge box that comes every month. But so it might be that you get a box right at the beginning or the end. And then you just sort of have to figure out how much stuff there is. So but that may be the best way to go, right? That may be, where you get this sort of, box or set that shows up. And then at the very end, you get a big sort of collector's box to hold it all in. But yeah, if that makes sense to people, that absolutely may be the way to go.
Yeah, I think that's because, as you say, there are precedents in other sort of areas, so that's something that some people are definitely interested in with Pathfinder. One of our sort of dangerlings, we call them, asked that there's a birth and death certificate. Any chance of a resurrection certificate? I know that I've been rezzed a few times by very kind teammates. Right. Would that be something? I suppose you'd have to have a bunch.
Well, I think there's on the death certificate itself, I think it says, please wait 3 days in case of resurrection or something before filing. So it actually very specifically says that. And then there's a checkbox the other checkbox is, avenge my death, yes or no.
Oh, fantastic.
Nice.
So it's those are definitely have a little bit of the sort of Beadle and Grimm sort of tongue-in-cheek humor to them. Which was a lot of fun. We always have a lot of fun writing that kind of stuff.
Which is terrific. And of course, it's fun. That's the whole point of role playing, is doing things that you can't do in real life. So right. why not make it a little bit tongue in cheek? Absolutely.
We should say, how do people get these? If people want to get one of these chronicles,
yes,
they're excited. What do they do?
Oh, so they go to. So the way you get them is you go to Kickstarter and search up. Beadle and Grimm's, or just search for Pathfinder. We're one of the big Pathfinder Kickstarters up there right now. And please back the Kickstarter. You can back us for just a single chronicle. You can back us for the whole set of 4. We're doing a whole thing with the Kickstarter add-ons so that you can back us for 1 chronicle and then get additional ones. So you could get all 4 of them separately. You could get them in the set. You can get more than 4 if you want. You can get the dice. You can get extra dice. And then at the very end, when the Kickstarter ends, we have one of those things where you can then come back and sort of confirm all of your choices. And if you want to move things around, you can. So at the very end, if you had gotten a wizard book, but at the end we've unlocked a class and you really want that one instead, you can absolutely switch and get one of the unlocked classes or add those. So really, really flexible. And again, this is all about us trying to learn about the Pathfinder audience and gauge interest. So if there are people out there who want these kinds of products in the future, this is the best place to start, because the more successful this is, one, the more we're able to do and the more we're able to produce, but also the more we can go back to Paizo and say, hey guys, there's a huge demand for this kind of stuff. Let's get the ball rolling and let's make some more of this great stuff for the Pathfinder audience.
Yeah, absolutely. And just while you were speaking, I was showing the viewers a sort of page showing your standard and collector's edition and the sort of the path to the Kickstarter. But honestly, if you check the website on that Kickstarter feed, you've got loads and loads of stuff, loads of exciting options to support this great idea. And I can tell you now from the feedback we've had from our community, there's a lot of love for this. And especially, as you mentioned, the kind of reasonable price point. I think that's really appealing to a lot of players who think, actually, do you know what? I will take a pop for $35. That's actually not so bad, and take a chance.
Yeah, and I mean, and American dollars isn't even real money. I mean, it's not it's not pounds. I mean, it's just made up.
I'm not sure
So it's all
pounds
made
are
up
really at the moment. I'm not sure pounds are really. I think we're in a neck and neck race on that one.
Actually, I'm not sure which currency is less believable at this point.
Yeah.
But
I'm holding out for gold pieces and silver. That's what I'm.
I would say one of the things I like, as someone being in the UK, one of the things I like about your website is that it tells you how much you can buy before you get hit for import taxes and things in the UK.
Oh, that's great.
Which is very useful for anyone we've all been stung by stuff like that from buying.
Yeah. No, I mean, these are all things that we've just, we didn't know any of this when we first started, and we were shipping things to people, and they were saying, and they were explaining how it worked, and so we've been trying really hard to try to eliminate all of those surprises and get things to work as expected.
Fantastic. When do the finished books start coming out, do you reckon?
So on the Kickstarter, we say June, which we believe is our sort of worst case scenario. Realistically, I think they're gonna come out sequentially. So the first 4 books, the Wizard book and the Cleric Rogue, will come out first. I can't say exactly when, but my hope is it'll be sometime before June, but certainly at the very latest it'll be then. And then if we unlock the other 2 classes, those may take a little bit longer to get to, although hopefully not. And then once we move on to the other ones, we'll see. But the Kickstarter says June. A lot of it depends on how many we end up having to make, how long it takes to ship from wherever it is we make them, and then get them in people's hands. But we're excited, and we're really confident with the people that we're working with. So the printer that we're having print the books is actually the same company that prints international versions of lots of game books. I'm not going to say which ones, but so they're a really reputable firm that does this kind of thing all the time. So we're really glad that they're on board to make these and make them in a way that's going to be, we know that they're going to look great. We know that they're going to be really reliable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did just have a quick question. Now, obviously, you can't reveal what these mystery classes are going to be, and I would never ask that question because that's totally a secret. But could you give us a little peek into what are the mechanics behind choosing that? Because when I saw it, I thought, oh my goodness, how would you even begin to go and pick the next class? I mean, do you go on feedback, or is it kind of market research or popularity, or how would you even begin to base that decision?
We pick our favorite classes.
Well, that's absolutely fair enough, and you are fully entitled to do that.
No, I mean, honestly, I will say we did spend some. We tried a whole bunch of different things. We looked at, there had been a survey about, what classes people use, people do most frequently and less, popularity, and we went back and forth and things. And at the end of the day, there was no better way of doing it than just picking the next 2 favorite. I mean, the one thing we did decide was that what we didn't want to do was put all of the best and most popular classes in the first Kickstarter, because it's kind of like when you're doing a greatest hits album, greatest hits 1 and 2. If you put all the greatest hits on volume 1, and who's going to buy volume 2?
Yeah.
So we're trying to mix it up a little bit, but I mean, all the classes are great. We think these next 2 ones are just a lot of fun. They happen to be our favorites.
Yeah. I think that's a lovely insight into you guys as players as well. I think I'm excited to see what your favorite classes are. But like you say, you've definitely covered the major bases with the 4 you've picked. We figured that was a solid way to start.
Okay. You can't go wrong if you have those 4 in your party. Chances are, unless Dan's DMing, you'll probably survive.
You know him so well.
If you guys had ever had a cleric in the party, then
nobody plays healers, Dan. No, who needs a healer?
Only one. Only GMs play healers because we know that you need them.
You need them.
Do you get time to game much yourself these days? You just constantly making books and things?
I mean, we do bemoan the fact that all of the time that we used to spend getting together and gaming, those have all turned into business meetings. So, we used to we'd get together, we'd game on Sunday nights, and then that became our, a business meeting. So then we moved our games, we would play on Wednesday nights, and then that became a business meeting, and then Saturday mornings, and now that's a business meeting. So we keep trying to come up with ways of of gaming. And it turns out actually that most of the gaming that we end up doing now ends up being, hopping on somebody else's stream and playing with people, and which is fun and actually has been a really fun thing to do. Not something that we naturally would have done on our own. We just, the five of us have just been playing, amongst ourselves forever. But to get out there and meet other people and play with other people has been a lot of fun. But yeah, it would be great to find some time to just get back to playing ourselves.
It's the only way I get to play now is guest spots on other people's podcasts. Once like you've got the availability, I'm always jumping on it because it's the only time I get to play a character.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if that's the only thing that we have to complain about, there are worse things.
That's not bad. Well, we'd love to run you guys a game sometime.
That would be awesome. We would definitely love that.
That'd be really fun. That's all the questions. We're coming up on an hour.
My goodness! Wow.
Do you know what? The time has flown by. I know you can't see me, but I've been sitting here with a massive grin on my face. I can tell you that the chat we've been getting has been very, very supportive. Like I say, lots of interest in this, and I think it's safe to say that we all feel that you guys are doing a fantastic job with these. I cannot wait to see them in the flesh. I think they look terrific, absolutely terrific.
Awesome.
And do you have any last questions for us, Paul? Putting on the spot.
No, I mean, no. I mean, we'd love to. I mean, we listened to some of your podcasts, and we would love to, get together and game with you guys. And we should just, now that we've sort of dipped our toes in this Pathfinder community and sort of meeting all these new people, we definitely want to keep it up and keep doing it. So we look forward to doing more stuff.
Let's do it.
Absolutely. Awesome. That sounds like a date. Well, thank you so much. This has been sort of James Foxy Lockhart, the usual host, the Dungeon Master. And thank you, Paul Shapiro from Beadle and Grimm, for coming on board. It has been an absolute pleasure.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. And all the best. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you very much. And obviously you can catch our local stream on next Wednesday. And do go to Kickstarter and check out Beadle and Grimm's complete Character Chronicles. There's loads to support there. I'm sure you're going to love it as much as we do. And until next time, stay dangerous.
Awesome.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.